solar wind particle flow near Earth drops almost completely, and satellite radiation alarms spike within minutes. A CE and WIN spacecraft both register the same collapse in incoming particles, a near-total disappearance of pressure from the Sun. Ground operators watch the readouts flatten into an empty line, then jump into unstable spikes as magnetospheric boundaries begin to drift outward. The protective environment around Earth does not hold steady. It expands, fast, and every model on screen begins failing under the same assumption that just vanished. The visual anchor appears immediately on the monitoring systems, a massive invisible magnetic bubble inflating outward into space as if something holding it in place has been removed. No one is calling it stable anymore. It is reacting. Within the first hour, radiation sensors on multiple satellites begin reporting conflicting exposure levels. Some instruments show sudden shielding improvements. Others show sharp increases in cosmic ray impact. The same region of space now behaves differently depending on which system you trust. The visual anchor returns on playback loops. The magnetic bubble still expanding, still pushing outward, still changing shape frame by frame. It looks like Earth itself has lost an external constraint. ACE data confirms it again. Wind confirms it again. The solar wind density has dropped by 98%. Not a flare, not a storm, a collapse in pressure. And that missing pressure is now shaping everything. The first interpretation is simple: a rare solar quiet period, a temporary lull. Systems adjust their expectations and attempt recalibration. But the visual anchor refuses to behave like a temporary event. The magnetic boundary does not return to its previous position. It continues to swell outward, slowly, steadily, as if the structure of near-Earth space depends on continuous external force. Operators begin noticing something uncomfortable. Every predictive model assumes a constant stream of solar wind holding the magnetosphere in balance. Without it, the system does not relax. It deforms. The bubble keeps inflating on screen, and each frame makes the same point more difficult to ignore. Then the dependency becomes visible in a way no one planned for. Space weather models begin failing, not because of new data, but because of missing pressure. The visual anchor reappears again, larger this time, showing the magnetic boundary extending farther into regions normally shaped by solar compression. Satellites that were considered safely inside protective zones now drift into unpredictable particle fields. The system is not breaking randomly. It is revealing what it always relied on: a constant external push from the Sun. Without it, Earth's magnetic shield is not a fixed wall. It is a shape maintained by pressure, and now that pressure is gone. Midway through the event window, the scale changes. What began as a local anomaly becomes a system-wide recalibration problem. Orbiting spacecraft across different agencies began reporting inconsistent boundary crossings. One satellite logs stable conditions. Another, moments away, records intense radiation exposure in the same region. The visual anchor returns again, now showing the magnetic bubble expanding so far that traditional boundary maps no longer match reality. Entire safety zones used for decades become unreliable within hours. The dependency is no longer theoretical. It is operational. Every correction attempt assumes pressure will return, but the Sun does not restore it on schedule. Then the system begins to strain under its own correction logic. As solar wind data slowly resumes partial flow, it arrives fragmented, unstable, uneven. The magnetosphere reacts unevenly in response. One region contracts. Another continues expanding. The visual anchor flickers between states, showing a structure that cannot decide its own shape because the force holding it steady is inconsistent again. This is not recovery. It is instability layered on top of instability. The hidden dependency is now active. Every predictive model depends on continuity that no longer exists, and every correction assumes the very condition that failed. By the final phase, the consequences are no longer contained to observation. Satellite operators adjust shielding protocols in real time, Mission paths are altered. Instruments are reclassified as temporarily unreliable. The visual anchor appears one last time at full scale, the magnetic boundary stretched far beyond expected limits, then partially collapsing as solar wind pressure returns in uneven bursts. The system does not snap back. It settles into a different behavior entirely, a magnetosphere that only exists in its familiar form when continuously pressed from the outside, not a shield on its own, a balance maintained by force. What remains is not a mystery signal or an unexplained anomaly. It is a structural truth revealed under absence. Earth's protective magnetic bubble was never independent. It was held in shape by something constantly pushing against it. Remove the push, and the shape changes immediately. Restore it unevenly, and the system becomes unstable again. The opening image of a stable protective boundary no longer holds. It was never stable. It was maintained. And now every model built on that assumption carries the same flaw. No pressure means no shape.